Hello. Never disturb your enemy who is making a mistake. Who said these words? These are words spoken by Napoleon Bonaparte. So now in this part of the video, we are going to discuss about Napoleon, the changes that he made to the administrative system of France and the advantages and disadvantages of these changes. So there are three kinds of questions that can come from this part of the chapter of rise of nationalism in Europe. Now, what are these questions? First, either you can be asked to write a short note on Napoleonic Code, or you can be asked to explain the advantages and disadvantages of Napoleon Code, or you can be asked how did Napoleon give a setback to democracy in France. So let's start discussing these points. So Napoleon was a commander in French army. He was an extremely intelligent and shrewd commander. Now let us see, let us go through these changes. Now he introduced these changes in a code which was called as Napoleonic Code or Civil Code of 1804. Now let us see what are the changes. First, he abolished feudalism. What do you mean by feudalism? Feudalism means it was a system which existed in medieval era. That means from 9th century to 15th century, and this system existed in Europe. Now it was considered that king was the owner of the entire land which came within his kingdom. Now what would king do with this land? The king would keep some part of the land for his personal use, and the rest part of the land he would give it to nobles. Now what would nobles do in exchange of this land? The nobles would provide military services. Now what would nobles do with this large piece of land? The nobles in return would give this piece of land to knights. The knights in return would give this piece of land to farmers, and farmers would also give this land to serfs. Serfs were also called as farmers, but they were the lowest category or lowest class in the society. So this system of exchange of land was abolished. Second, he abolished privileges which were based on birth. Now what do you mean by privileges based on birth? Suppose if you are born in a particular family, which is a royal family, you would get certain rights which were not given to other people because they were not born in that royal family. So these kind of privileges, they were abolished. He also established equality before law. Now what do you mean by equality before law? It means that everybody is equal in front of law. Nobody is rich or poor. Everybody has to be treated equally. Next, he improved communication and transportation system. Also, he gave right of property to people. Next, he removed the restrictions which were imposed by guilds. Now, what do you mean by guilds? Suppose you are a trader who carries out a business relating to pottery. Now you make a group and group of these traders come together and make certain rules and regulations relating to business relating to pottery. Now these rules and regulations are applicable to everyone. Now people who were small businessmen, people who did not carry business at a very large scale, it was difficult for them to expand their business because of such restrictions which was imposed by this guild. So these kind of restrictions which were imposed by guilds, they were removed. Next, he abolished serfdoms and manorial dues. Now what do you mean by serfdoms? The serfdom is also part of feudalism. Serfs are lowest category of farmers and they could be sold or bought just like slaves. Now this system was abolished. And next, manorial dues. What do you mean by manorial dues? They are the manorial dues are nothing but money which the serfs or farmers were supposed to pay to the person who was the owner of that particular land. So these manorial dues were also abolished. So these were the advantages of Napoleon Code. Now, how did people react to these changes? Of course, people were very happy with the changes which were made, because it was easy for the traders now to carry on their business. The farmers did not have to pay dues or pay money to the person who held the land. Now, it was a newfound freedom for everyone. But slowly, people started becoming unhappy with Napoleon rule, because Napoleon had introduced some very such things which were not favorable to people. Now, what were those things which were introduced by Napoleon? First, he increased taxes. Nobody likes increase in taxes. Second, he introduced censorship. That means nobody could speak against Napoleon. Third, and the most disadvantageous factor which went against him was he forced people to join army. Now, why was he forcing people to join army? Because this Napoleon was in constant war or battles with the neighboring countries. So he wanted more and more soldiers in the army. So he was forcing people to join army, and people did not like this idea. So these were the three things which were disadvantages or which were not in favor of Napoleon rule. Next, how did Napoleon's era come to an end? Now, Napoleon was in constant war with his neighboring countries like Prussia, Russia, Britain and Austria. Now, these countries, they came together, they formed an ally, and eventually in the year 1815, in a battle of Waterloo is the name of a place, they defeated Napoleon, and thus in the year 1815, Napoleon era came to an end. So this is the topic on Napoleon era. So in the coming video, we will discuss what happened in Europe and France after Napoleon era came to an end. So till then, bye-bye.